Hey guys, what is up? I'm Ian and welcome to Brokenomics. So today we're going to be covering a project that A has had a big recent run up, B we're interested in because we hold from the ICO, C something that we've been interested in filling our bags with but haven't actually quite done yet post ICO, because of a number of different kind of fundamental aspects in terms of the token release that I'm going to go into after taking a quick look at the technicals, and D just because it's a project close to our hearts. I mean, it was our first video, and we've also had their co-founder Scott Walker on the channel for an interview. So yeah, let's get stuck straight into it. The lines I have in this chart, this is an anchored VWAP, this blue line. It just means the average price paid since a point in time. So the point in time here is the first day it listed on Huobi, it's hard to say, on the 11th of May. Another one here, this day here, I remember looking back at it on June 19th, and I thought this might be a potential turning point from the market. In relation to the other days around it, 145 million Casper traded. You can see the day before 25, 66, 21, 13. So just a huge volume day, and obviously they often correspond with turning points in the market. And we had sort of looked to form, like a little bit of a base here for a couple of weeks, although it was testing higher up here around that 24-cent level. And then the third one, anchored VWAP I have is just the all-time low, anchored from the all-time low here. And the only other line is a 50-day moving average. I think it hasn't been trading 200 days yet, so you can't have a 200-day moving average. And it wouldn't take a genius to work out that you're above on a 5 and a 10-day moving average as well. So first level of interest for me is at 24 cent. This decline in VWAP from the peak on Huobi, obviously trading did occur earlier on other sites, and this would coincide with a slightly different anchored VWAP from those levels. But it does coincide with that old 24-cent support level, which we may find sellers at again. Second level is over here, formed a shelf at that 18-cent level, so there's potential for resistance there as well. And we have actually seen recently that yesterday obviously closed below it, and it looked like today after testing above is going to close below it as well. But maybe we're just wearing out some sellers at that level. Also some profit taking. We've obviously seen a huge increase of volume again here. 102 million Casper traded on August 3rd, up to 12 times that amount on August 6th, and 16 times that amount on August 7th. And today, so far, we're looking at just under 800 million Casper traded as well. So, absolutely huge increases in volume, and actually not the price increases that you would have expected for such a wild increase in volume. So, not only has there been someone coming in who's buying a lot more, but there's also been a huge amount of selling pressure as well. Someone possibly strategically waiting for these levels, or just to, they had some plan anyway, or were patient enough not to just get despondent at 5-6 cent and say, I'm getting rid of it now. They're actually getting rid of the tokens on the way up. So they're the levels of interest for me: 24 cent, 18, 14, down to 11.5. Obviously, at 11.5, we've got the VWAP from the low, which is rising, and price is clearly above. From the high volume event, that VWAP has started to flatten out and rise as well, which is good news. And you've also got the 50-day moving average in there. So kind of in between that 10 to 11.5 cent level, corresponding with this little band here, which you wouldn't say is strong support, but there's also some dynamic support there as well. You would imagine, or certainly a level to be watching out for a markdown if you're keeping an eye on the charts with Casper. Obviously, this isn't financial advice. I just did as much research as I could into Casper, talking to people who are really in the know. And if you appreciate that kind of work, rather than just churning out shite every day, please do consider giving us a sub if you find the video useful or enjoy the content. So, in terms of the price increase, right? I mean, point number one, to state the bloody obvious, price went up over 300% at the highs, from 5 cent up over 20. But with this massive increase in volume, where we saw it going from whatever it was, like 120 million up to 1.6 billion Caspers traded per day, you would have actually expected a much bigger price move. And the reason this didn't happen brings us to point three, was that massive excess supply had entered the system, which was not there the day before. Now, excess supply often in my head would correspond to circulating supply, or the amount of tradable tokens, and we're going to go into that in a second. But if you go to Casper Live, you'll see that there actually hasn't been an increase in this circulating supply. It just meant that somebody was also holding a lot of tokens that they weren't willing to get rid of at 6, 8, or 9 cent. But all of a sudden, when this rally did occur, that was a price that they were happy to liquidate their position at. So this information comes from a guy, Bobby, who has a Casper price chat group on Telegram. I'll leave a link in the description below. Go and check them out. They also did actually a really good article recently. I was reading today about why Casper is the best positioned blockchain for enterprise, dealing with suitability, use cases, competitors, and why it's such a strong candidate to dominate this sector. Obviously, being a Casper price group, they would be bullish on the project and positive about it, but they're by no means delusional. There's a lot of reasonable chat goes on in there, and in fairness, in a lot of the other Casper groups as well, as Telegram groups go. They're not the most hypish, like they're very reasonable and sane people, which is unusual in crypto. So fair play. Um, but Bobby was super helpful. So just a shout out to him and thanks for giving me this information. So with that, when they went and analyzed the balances on the exchange, they found that after price started going up, there was a massive jump in balances to the exchange, which meant someone large was selling into the demand. So it wasn't just, a couple of small accounts or a lot of people said at the same time. This was, one large entity or a couple of large entities dealing a lot. And this means that a much bigger exchange of tokens than the price move indicated. With the amount that was bought and with the amount of increase in volume, it actually should have pumped up to $1 if the excess supply wasn't thrown onto the exchange. Now, in terms of dealing with that excess supply, it's important that we look at this. And again, I mean, I talked about this when we did our Casper video. Like, it was annoying that this was the best graph for info that I could find on the circulating supplier increase in Casper. I did find a bit more in some interviews and stuff like that. But basically, what we had here is obviously the increase in supply. But in terms of the advisors, the teams, the validators, and the employees, we were looking at a 90 plus 90. So 90 days locked and a 90-month cliff. So 180 days or 6 months, which would be mainnet plus 6. And just to say, mainnet in the context of this is March 31st, not May 1st, which I think is when the first transaction on the mainnet actually took place. I was confused over those two and had conflicting information, but it has been confirmed to me that it was March 31st. So if you look at where we are now, then March 31st, April, May, June, July. So we're just over mainnet plus 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, just past here. So we're looking at about 2.5 billion Caspers are in supply, right? But then if you go down to CoinMarketCap, you'll see that it's only 1.13 billion Caspers in circulating supply. And the reason for this, and again, shout out to proper research, is that Genesis accounts are staked, don't enter supply until they move out of their accounts. So if they're in accounts on Casper Live, in Casper wallets, they don't actually count in circulating supply, even though they are available to sell after, I think it's about 16 or 18 hours of actually kind of a grace period or whatever of getting them across to an exchange. So in terms of that, and the private sales advisors and employee lockups are the 90 plus 90. So that's why we see, when we would expect to see a number here of 2.5 billion, a lot of those are actually just being left kind of dormant or holding or staked, I guess, rather than dormant. They'd be staking them in accounts. So this as well, right? We're at 2.5 billion here, but if you look at how quickly from 2.5 we're going to go up to 5, by mainnet plus 6 we'll be touching, if that's here, mainnet plus 6 will be just about touching 5 billion tokens in circulation. And this is another reason why I was holding off. I had some Casper from the ICO, so did Robin. Zach didn't. Shout out to Zach, sorry bud. And we were just looking at this and also looking at the validator unlock, which I'll get to in a minute specifically. And just saying, well, there's a lot of these coming into the market. It's a long-term project. They're only just getting mainnet up and running. People have really yet to, I'm sure they've started building, but we're yet to see things being built or, completed and built on Casper to any large extent. So there was no reason in my head to ape into this or get involved too early. Although in general, I'd say, I can almost be too cautious at times. But in the case of this, I think I was pretty happy with being patient. But now seeing this increase, I mean, somebody large is buying, and either they've just said to themselves, "Oh my God, Casper is this hidden gem," having done their research and due diligence, and we really need to be a part of this, or they know something we don't. And that's frequently the case in crypto and in business. That price moves and then you hear the news a week later or something like that. So to go down specifically to the validators, I just moved these along. Or sorry, I got some of these numbers again off the Casper price group, and I just put in the percentage change and filled in the last few weeks. I did it off the open of the day, and then the close the day after, so 48 hours. So it may not be exact to the hour of when they unlocked. In fact, it might even be a bit early, but just to give you an idea. So the first validator unlock saw a 27% decrease. Next was nearly 10%, then 42%, which I guess would have, probably coincided with a bad day or bad week for Bitcoin around that time as well. And then we actually saw a 30% increase on the 20th of July. But the last 2 weeks of validator unlocks, and the next one is tomorrow, we've seen much smaller change numbers. And tomorrow, with the high volume, God knows what'll happen with price. But the reason for this, and again, I got talking to somebody else, was essentially the validators that have already unlocked. Now, there's two key pieces of information there. There's one validator that I have heard, that is just what I've heard. It's just information that I've gotten. They're stuck for cash and they're liquidating their position in Casper quite aggressively to raise cash for themselves. Another key point is that the other validators already have a lot of tokens unlocked that they can sell, and they're not selling them. So that means that as more of these unlocks happen, we're not going to see the same level of sales and decrease in price and selling pressure and increase in supply that we had seen early on. The people who wanted to get out and get rid of their tokens have kind of done that, and now we're possibly, or certainly in the last 2 weeks, and I guess we'll find out again tomorrow if this is true or not, going to see less volatility in price as a result of the validator unlocks as we have seen before. So an encouraging thing there for the potential for price action, but also go back here. We're at mainnet plus, what was it, April, May, June, July, for mainnet plus 4, 2.5 billion tokens. At mainnet plus 5.5, plus 6. In the next 2 months, there's going to be double the amount of those tokens in circulation. And you would imagine that would bring large selling pressure in as well. So, couple that with the fact that there's a whale here buying up a load of Casper, and in spite of aggressive selling, has been able to coincide with a 3x in the price and a huge increase in volume, which is obviously also brought about by the fact that, okay, Casper's moving now. Leveraged short-term traders are encouraged to get into the market as well, and this ups volume too. Just a lot of conflicting information, and I'm tempted to start getting involved in this with the guys as well. We're having a chat about it tonight and deciding what the game plan is and just kind of putting all this information together. I am intrigued by what that person knows, and yeah, I mean, if they do know something, I guess we're all going to find out soon, right? So anyway, that was just throwing together the information that I had on Casper and looking at it, and yourself, guys, do your own research, weigh it up, balance it out. Don't take my word for anything, and yeah, I'll catch you guys soon. Appreciate it.